Hi, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I'm glad you're back with me, and if this happens to be your first time, please, if you like these stories, subscribe, push the like button, and if you go back on my playlist of Stories for the Young at Heart, you'll find the very beginning book for this D.J. Dillon series. The beginning book was called The Hair-Pulling Bear Dog. But today's book is Ghost Dog of Stony Ridge. And that's the one I'm going to be reading tonight. So if you remember yesterday, Alfred and DJ had got captured by Ormley and I have a hard time with this name, Fogleby, and they were escaping in their little rowboat, and it began to look like they were going to get captured by Ormley and Fogleby because they had a motorboat. But then there was an accident, and that motorboat hit a big rock and it tore it open, and people were so hurt. And instead of going on to safety, DJ turned that rowboat around and they went to save the two that were after them. DJ thought he might drown by the time he could get Ormley back up to the surface. And then Fogleby, who had been hanging on a rock, all of a sudden, he went unconscious and he slipped under the water. So Alfred had to save him. They were having a hard time till the Marine Patrol came, and they got them into the boats safely. So it was almost over, but not quite. There was still an unsolved mystery of the ghost dog, and time was running out for DJ to enter the national writing contest. No, DJ realized tiredly, it wasn't really over yet. So that's how it ended yesterday. So now we're already on chapter 13. And this one's called The Governor's Surprise. DJ and Alfred waited to be examined in the hospital emergency room while the doctors worked on Ormley and Fogleby. Alfred grimaced weakly and said, "For a while in that lake, I thought we were both goners." "Me too." The friends were silent a moment, thinking about what could have happened. Then DJ said, "I got to get home so I can write that magazine article." Words began to form in DJ's mind. He was thinking about asking for paper and pencil when the deputy who pulled them from the lake entered the examining room. "Boys, I've got to take your statements. You up to that?" They ignored the officer's question and both asked, "Did you find our dogs?" "Yes. Another deputy found both dogs and took them to the vet's. The short-tailed mutt is fine, but the vet said he'd better watch the black and tan hound for a few days since he drank some of that lake water. We called your parents, too. They're waiting outside for you. Now, tell me what happened back at the lake." When the boys had finished giving their statements, the doctors examined them. Since DJ and Alfred were pretty good swimmers, they hadn't swallowed any of the lake water. Finally, the doctor said they were both fine. When DJ got home, his stepmother put him right to bed. After she and the rest of the family had left his room and closed the door, DJ jumped up. He sat down at his desk and picked up his paper and pen. This time his words came so fast that the boy's fingers could barely keep up. DJ wrote down all the details, then leaned back in his chair and reread the ending of the article. Like all chemicals, penta is good when used properly. Used wrongly, any chemical can be bad. And there are all kinds of ways to pollute, like being careless with papers and cans and things. That's why everyone has to be careful about pollution, because protecting the environment is everybody's business, yours and mine. DJ crawled back into bed and looked up at the ceiling. Thanks, Lord. I'll mail it early tomorrow morning. There was only one mail pickup every day at 6 p.m., so DJ had plenty of time to get to the post office. It seemed strange to DJ to be in bed so early when it wasn't even dark outside yet. He didn't think he would go to sleep, but the next thing he knew, his dad was standing over him, grinning at him. You gonna sleep the whole day away? Huh? Was DJ's sleepy reply. You've been asleep for 24 hours. That's a whole day. What? What time is it? DJ shouted as he threw back the covers and grabbed for his pants. A little after 5 p.m. The deadline. It's got to get to the post office before 6. Sam Dillon drove DJ to the post office and around and back to the loading dock. Mrs. Krankle, the springy postmistress, was watching the balding driver load the day's mail into the truck. DJ yelled, "Wait, wait!" The moment Dad stopped the car, DJ sprinted towards the truck. He shoved the envelope into Mrs. Krankle's hands. This has got to go. The postmistress took the package and checked the postage. Then she handed it to the driver, who dropped it in his canvas sack and closed the truck door. A moment later, the mail truck pulled away. Phew, that was close, DJ cried. Just then, Kathy Stagg came out of the dress shop next to the post office. Oh, DJ, I'm glad I ran into you. You've got a minute? I guess so. Could we walk by ourselves a ways? Dad chuckled and put the sedan into gear. See you at home, DJ. Dad was gone before the boy could protest. Kathy said, I'm sorry for what I said to you when Ormley Crater threw that stick through my bike spokes. DJ shrugged. It's okay. I'm having my 13th birthday party next week. Can you come? I guess so. Great! They started down the sidewalk as Kathy spoke. The Gazette said that Mr. Crater didn't know anything about his nephew and that Formby man polluting the lake. Mr. Crater decided not to buy the mill after all, so everybody's jobs are safe. Look, here comes Mr. Crater now. Suddenly, DJ wanted to cross the street to avoid the man, but the old miser came straight for Kathy and DJ. DJ Dillon? The old man looked straight into the boy's eyes. I'm not used to saying thanks, but I expect you that I owe you that much for saving my nephew's life. It's all right, the boy said softly. In that instant, without knowing exactly how, DJ felt himself forgive the old man and his nephew for all the trouble that they had caused. Suddenly, DJ felt clean and free. Ormley's the only kin I got, Mr. Crater went on. The juvenile authorities let him off with a warning. But since Forgerly's got a prison record, the police filed strong charges against him. You know, I didn't have nothing to do with that, don't you? I heard. I'd be obliged if you said you believed me. Mr. Crater's words were soft, almost pleading. I believe you, the boy said sincerely. I thank you kindly, DJ Dillon. I'd be proud if you'd let me buy you breakfast some morning when you're good and hungry. That would be nice, DJ said. The old man nodded and smiled. Anytime. DJ didn't remember ever hearing Mr. Krager could smile. The boy watched as the old man moved down the sidewalk. Kathy looked up and DJ smiled. I've got to get home for supper, she said. Bye now. Bye, Kathy. She had barely turned the corner when DJ saw Milford's car pull over the curb and stop. Alfred was holding the black and tan stray in the back seat. Alfred rolled down the window and said, Vet says Blackie will be fine. And look, his pads are healing. DJ reached through the open window and patted the hound's shoulders. Yeah, he looks great. You know, that ghost dog hasn't bawled at all lately. Do you know why, Alfred? Well, I hadn't really thought about it. DJ paused and then said, I believe Blackie and the ghost dog are one and the same. Alfred blinked through his heavy glasses. Are you crazy? There's a sure way to find out. Let's take Blackie out for a hunt tonight. Just after dark, the boys took the black and tan hound to the lake and let him loose. The moon was past full, yet there was enough light that they saw Blackie clearly as he began running a hot trail. Suddenly, the boys saw the hound throw up his head and bawl. The sound that came across the lake clear as silver bugles. DJ felt goosebumps spring up all over his arm and shoulders. Alfred said, I can't believe it. Listen to that. He's my dog, the black bugler. Come on, DJ. Let's run so we can hear him better. Some weeks later, Mr. Kirsten ran this headline on the front page of the Gazette. Governor coming to town to honor local heroes. The news story explained that the governor would arrive in Timber Gold Country to award medals of heroism to DJ Dillon and Alfred Milford. On the night of the award ceremony, DJ and Alfred fidgeted uneasily in the community auditorium. As the governor completed his speech, he took an envelope from his coat pocket. A moment later, DJ was startled to hear the words he'd written in his letter coming from the governor's mouth. Dear Governor, would you like to help save thousands of lives in this state? I'm a stringer for the Gazette. The boy raised his eyes to the ceiling, but he was remembering Paul Stagg's words from Proverbs. A man's gifts make room for him and brings him before great men. The governor finished reading DJ's letter and said, perhaps young DJ's letter was a bit strong, but I charge that to our aspiring author's zeal. He brought this potentially dangerous environmental problem to my attention. My office was able to act with proper state and federal agencies to prevent a health hazard. The governor continued, however, far above and beyond the call of duty for citizens of any age, DJ Dillon and Alfred Milford risked their own lives to save 2 other human beings. Both boys richly deserve these medals of heroism. DJ lowered his eyes at the applause. The governor put a red, white, and blue ribbon over Alfred's head. A silver medal glistened on his chest. Then the governor slipped an identical medal over DJ's head. The people stood and clapped loudly until the governor held up his hand and smiled. Friends, please be seated a moment. Tonight, it gives me great pleasure to make another announcement. The National Magazine Prize for Superior Writing by a young author on an environmental issue goes to DJ Dillon of Stony Ridge. The applause was thunderous as DJ accepted the plaque and a check from the governor. But there was a sudden commotion in the crowd. The whole audience started to laugh. A moment later, DJ saw Hero trotting down the aisle. The little hair-pulling bear dog leaped onto stage, across the governor's polished black shoes, and into DJ's arms. DJ looked at Alfred and grinned sheepishly. In a momentary silence, the community auditorium off in the distance, Bugler found the moonlit night with his beautiful music of his voice. Hero barked as the crowd congratulated DJ and Alfred. DJ's eyes caught Kathy's as she smiled shyly at him. He smiled back, big, happy smile. DJ didn't think he'd ever felt so good in his whole life. And that is the end of this story. So now we know who the ghost dog was. He wasn't a ghost dog at all. It was Blackie. And that was a very good book. I love these stories. I hope that you are liking them too. So let me see if I can see what book we start tomorrow. Let's see. Mad Dog of Lobo Mountain. Ooh. Mad Dog. I wonder if that means he's crazy. I wonder if that means he has rabies. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow. So I just want to tell you, I love you. I really do. But more importantly, God loves you. He always will. So I want to say good night. Maybe it's daytime when you're watching this, whichever. But I'll be reading again tomorrow. And God bless you. Keep dreaming. Bye-bye.